This is music, and these are 10 lesser known power metal albums / artists. Full disclosure, I am not a big fan of your modern, stereotypical European power metal. You know, with all the cheese, with the double bass drum going constantly, with the kind of happy vocal melodies all the time, with not a lot of actual riffage and, you know, actually not a lot of power, to be perfectly honest. But that doesn't mean that I don't like power metal. I quite enjoy early European power metal, early Halloween, early Blind Guardian, for example. I enjoy progressive power metal. I quite like US power metal, which has a bit more of an oomph to it. And I like the sort of Japanese branch of power metal, like Love Bites and Mary's Blood, where they inject elements from thrash metal and groove metal, and also from, you know, their own Japanese music tradition. They inject that into their power metal, which makes it very interesting. So yeah, I do like power metal. I've just grown tired of your typical cheesy European power metal. So in this video, I wanted to share with you 10 lesser known power metal releases and artists that I enjoy. And when we say lesser known, when we say obscure, let's just be honest. What we're saying is, I haven't heard a whole lot about this band, and then I project that upon the world and I call it lesser known. So really, I'm showing you some releases by some power metal bands that I don't personally hear people talk about a whole lot. So technically, this doesn't mean that they are obscure and not well known. Just my impression that they might not be well known. Some of these releases are technically not power metal, but they're still described as power metal, but I don't consider them power metal, but I've included them anyways. And others you might not consider power metal, but I kind of view them as being power metal, or maybe power metal adjacent. So let's just get down to business. Up first, we have Ashen Reign's An Angel's Burden. This one was sent to me very kindly many years ago by Brent McDaniel, who is the only person in this band. It's a one-man project, and it's kind of independently released. This is super interesting power metal. Brent McDaniel calls it power metal himself. It's very, very melancholic compared to lots of other power metal. It is quite melodic too, and he has a very unusual singing style for a power metal vocalist. His singing style is, he has like a darker voice, and it's almost in places like a introspective kind of chant almost. He reminds me more of Joy Division than a power metal kind of band. This might be maybe Joy Division in a power metal version of it, perhaps. It's really enjoyable though. I really like this. And if you come across a copy, I don't know how easy it is to find these, but if you come across a copy, do check it out. Maybe you can check it out on YouTube or something. I actually don't know if there are some songs from here on YouTube, but very interesting, very unique, very unusual power metal. Okay, up next, I don't know if these guys are actually super obscure, but I don't see people mention these very often, so I decided to include them. Destinies of War by Attack. Now this is more in the line of your European power metal. It's like early European power metal, so you have a little bit of cheese. You have your big Schlager kind of vocal melodies in the choruses. But it's like early European power metal. So just the right amount of cheese, just the right amount of things I like about power metal. You have lots of traditional metal elements as well, and that's very nicely balanced between those. So yeah, if you're into like early Halloween, early Blind Guardian, you might enjoy Attack as well. attack are less on the speed metal kind of side of things, and more on the traditional metal side of things. But certainly to my ears, it's European power metal with just the right amount of cheese, right? To make it tasty, you know what I mean? But it doesn't drown everything else out. Up next, Sands of Time by Black Majesty. Another power metal band. I think they're quite prolific, but I don't see people talk about them very much. This is also your more typical European power metal, so it does have the double bass drum, it has some Schlager stuff, has a little bit of cheese, but just like Attack, there's a lot of traditional heavy metal on here as well. Lots of melody, and this one is also quite dark, I would say, compared to lots of other kind of Euro power metal style stuff. And you have something that looks like a lightsaber on the cover artwork. So yeah, I find this one to be quite enjoyable as well. Black Majesty, Sands of Time. I bought a second-hand copy of this, so it actually was a blind buy. Okay, up next, Louis XIV by Chroming Rose. I have the sort of gimmick version here. I think there is a reissue, which is just a straight up, normal jacket. This one looks like this on the back. This is, I think some people would not consider this power metal, but when I listened to it, it reminded me of, actually like Attack, it reminded me a bit of early Halloween. And, oh yeah, Glare, check this out. It reminded me a bit of early Halloween, but leaning again more towards traditional heavy metal than towards speed metal. And this is I think this is a fantastic album. If you like your just traditional heavy metal, check this out. If you like your early Halloween, check this out. If you've heard Attacker and you like it, check this out. This one has so many awesome songs on it. Some of them are power metal songs. Some of them are traditional metal songs. Some of them kind of combine the two. Great stuff. One of the great European power metal releases, and probably one of the more obscure ones as well. I don't see a lot of people talk about it. Okay, up next, Programmed by Lethal. This is one of the kind of albums that I personally probably don't consider to be power metal. It does have some power metal elements for sure, but to me this is more like kind of progressive metal. You have some very interesting kind of rhythms going on. I don't think you have a whole lot of odd time signatures, but you still have some interesting accentuations and drumming patterns over your straightforward 4/4 rhythms. Fantastic vocalist, very impressive singer, does hit a lot of high notes, so it might not be to everybody's liking, but this is a masterpiece in my opinion, and it's a masterpiece that is very underrated. Not a lot of people talk about this one, and this is one I certainly would jump at the chance of also acquiring on vinyl. Fantastic stuff. I think Killing Machine, the closing track, is amazing. The Fire on Your Skin, the opening track, and Programmed, the title track, they're all fantastic songs. And again, like I said, it's probably progressive power metal. I think that's probably a fair descriptor. And the power metal bits are like more from the US power metal side of things. But what a fantastic album. If you like progressive metal, check this one out for sure. The vocals might be challenging, but still very, very impressive vocalist. Kind of reminds me a bit of John Arch. Okay, so more progressive power metal. Pyramaze, Legend of the Bone Carver. Yeah, so this one is a bit more, has some more straight up power metal elements, kind of European style power metal, combined with Dream Theater-esque progressive metal elements. So that means that you have some melodies, you have some big Schlager style choruses and so on and so forth, but you also have some odd time signatures, you have some elements from other genres, you have ebbs and flows and musical journeys and all that stuff. And I think it's also a concept album. I think it's Lance King who does the vocals on here, but I might be mistaken. Other than him, I think the rest of the members are Danish, so it's technically a Danish band. Despite the fact that they're a Danish band, I don't hear a lot of people talk about them here in Denmark either, which is a crime. But yeah, great stuff. If you like progressive metal, I think this might be your cup of tea. If you like power metal, like more European style power metal, I think this might also be your cup of tea. The next one, Rawhead Rexx, self-titled. They have a couple of other albums out. This is another one of those albums that are, they're described as power metal, but to me, it's more like traditional heavy metal. I think maybe the power metal element is that you do have some double bass drum stuff going on, but at a bit of a slower pace, more of a Motorhead Overkill pace, and you do have some kind of big vocal melodies, but to me it has more of an oomph to it than your typical kind of European power metal. Maybe people are comparing it more to US power metal. Maybe that's why it's called power metal. To me, it's solid, traditional heavy metal with admittedly quite an oomph to it. And maybe that's why people call it power metal. I picked this one up very cheap in a record store. It was actually an electronics store called pwoer 2000. They've gone out of business. It's been there's like a chain of electronic stores, and they made some blunders in their business strategy when things went digital and they had to turn the key. But they had this one massive store downtown Copenhagen called pwoer 2000, and they had an entire corner which was just metal, and I found lots of super cheap blind buys. A lot of my CD collection consists of blind buys from that store. They were not all successes. I have, passed a lot of them on, but this one is one of those blind buys that was just, holy shit, this is awesome. So, great stuff. It's called power metal. It's great stuff. I consider it to be more like traditional metal. Up next, Royal Hunt, and this one is called Collision Course. Royal Hunt, another, I think, mainly Danish power metal band, progressive power metal, symphonic power metal. And normally, symphonic power metal is one of those power metal genres I'm not a big fan of, but it works very well here because it goes very well with the compositions, and it's not overly cheesy. It's very epic, for sure. You have some big vocal melodies again, and I think maybe one reason why I really enjoy this is also the high degree of musicianship, but it never takes over from the music itself, and it doesn't come across super cheesy to me either. I think that's another reason why I quite enjoy this album and Royal Hunt in general. So again, if you like symphonic power metal, if you like progressive power metal, but you kind of had enough of all the cheese, maybe this will be to your liking. I do think some people might find this a bit cheesy, to be honest. I just happen to not find it to be too cheesy. So another great release. And I know a lot of people actually do know this band, but still I don't see people talk about it that often when they do talk about power metal. I mentioned the Japanese power metal scene. I've shown this one a couple of times. I think this is more like a mini album. I'm actually not sure, but it's called Burst into Isomer by Sin Isomer. And that's her, Sin Isomer. So Burst into Isomer, still not a fortunate choice of words, but whatever. This is actually this is more, you know, the sort of the modern European power metal style, but Sin Isomer has such an amazing set of pipes on her. She's a fantastic vocalist. She can hit some really high notes and powerful notes without going into a falsetto, which is amazing. And the vocal melodies are, yeah, they're big, they're catchy, they're Schlager-like, but there's not a whole lot of cheese on here. And I think that's where this, despite the fact that I think it's very inspired by your European power metal, to me it's superior to European power metal. I do suspect that the drums here are programmed, which is a shame because it is stuff that a human could certainly play. But you have some really cool guitar riffage and neoclassical elements going on as well. There's a lot of oomph and power to this music. And like I said, she has a fantastic voice. I think maybe one of my favorite songs on here, I like them all, but Future King is just the epitome of what power metal should be, in my opinion. Fantastic vocalist. I hope she'll release some more. I think she has this one and then a single. I hope she'll make some more power metal stuff, and then I hope they'll bring aboard a real human to do the drums. But this one is great. If you like your Japanese power metal, check her out. If you like your European power metal, check her out. If you like female fronted metal in general, check her out. And the last one is this one here, Trampled Underfoot. And I know it's almost, Trampled Underfoot sounds almost like a hardcore or a metalcore band name. And the logo kind of looks like something that could perhaps be some kind of sick, gory grindcore, something like that. But this is power metal, and again, you have your typical power metal tropes. You have some double bass drum, you have some big vocal melodies and all that stuff, but it's just delivered with such a high degree of musicianship, and there is also quite an oomph to it. They do go into riff territory. They do go into you know, traditional heavy metal territory as well. There's some great guitar work on here, some borderline neoclassical stuff too, without it being cheesy. And again, I think this is another power metal band. They've managed to find the balance between your power metal tropes and the oomph, and just the right amount of cheese for it to be tasty but not nauseating. You know what I mean? So these were just 10 power metal releases that I think are lesser known. I could be wrong, but I don't see or hear people talk about them very often. And if you like your power metal and some of the adjacent genres that I mentioned, but you've kind of had enough of the cheese and the staleness, in my opinion, of modern European power metal, maybe you will find some kind of comfort in these, and maybe some hope in some of the more recent ones as well. I enjoy all of these, and I would recommend them all. If you like power metal, if you like progressive metal, some of it should appeal to you. If you like traditional metal, some of it should also appeal to you. US power metal, some of this should appeal to you. If you like female fronted metal, Sin Isomer certainly should appeal to you. If you like J-rock and J-metal, you got Sin Isomer there. She's got you covered. So, yeah, I enjoy these. Check them out. Maybe you will like them too. Thanks for watching.